This is Jack Feeney with Sea School, and today we are going to look at the Coast Guard's Small Boat Sea Service form. Let's take a look. First, let's go to seaschool.com, where on the menu bar you will find a tab for USCG forms. Clicking this tab will take you to our forms page. The first item under Original Applications is the packet of information you are looking for. Clicking this link will give you a download that includes lots of information on applying for a Coast Guard license. Specifically, CG-719S is the Coast Guard's Small Boat Sea Service form, and it is on page 33 and 34 of the download packet. Here is an example of section 1 of the Small Boat Sea Service form filled out. Begin by putting your name and social security number in the form, followed by the vessel's name. If the vessel doesn't have a name, you can simply enter in the maker of the vessel, followed by the state registration or the Coast Guard documentation number. Next, section 1 asks for the gross tonnage of the vessel. Understand this is not what the boat weighs, but its cargo carrying capacity. If you have a small boat, say under 40 feet, you can simply put less than 5 in this box. Follow this with the measurements of the vessel, how many feet it is long, how many feet it is wide, and then the depth of the vessel, which is normally from the gunwale to the bottom of the keel. If you have a cabin boat, it would be from the roof to the keel. Below this area, the form asks what type of propulsion the boat is, which in most cases it'll be a motorboat, and what job you served on the vessel. Were you the operator or the mate? If you're on a small boat, it is assumed you are assisting in the operation of the vessel regardless of the role, and therefore the time is still good for a license. The last item on section 1 asks for the body of water or waters that the vessel was operated on. If you take your boat to a significantly different part of the country for vacation, you might need to use 2 forms. And also remember, each specific vessel needs its own form. Section 2 of the Small Boat Sea Service form is perhaps the most confusing for many mariners. The Coast Guard will accept sea service days dating back to age 16. However, the Coast Guard does not expect that you've been keeping a specific logbook for all of your time back to childhood. This sea service calendar, if you will, is a good faith estimate on your behalf that documents your sea service over the past number of years. Let's take a closer look at the bottom of this form, as there are a number of key points you must remember while filling it out. For a sea service day to count, it must be at least 4 hours underway, and we only get 1 day per calendar day. Therefore, the average number of hours underway should be at least 4 hours. The number of days listed on the right-hand side of the form must add up to the total number of days listed on the left side of the form. In this case, we have 0 Great Lakes, we have 26 for shoreward, and 30 days offshore. This adds up to a total of 56. In many cases, the boundary line is the same as the line of demarcation, and once you cross the mouth of the harbor, you have entered seaward of the boundary line. In other locations, the boundary line is significantly offshore. You might refer to the CFR listed on the form or contact your local Coast Guard station for advice. Just so you know, seaward is often referred to as offshore, and time on the Great Lakes is all counted as offshore days. Within the minimum of 360 days that you have to supply with your application, 90 of those days must be offshore or seaward of the boundary line. Otherwise, your license will be restricted to inland waters. Keep in mind, however, that both the Great Lakes days and the seaward days are both counted toward the requirement of 90 days offshore in order to get a near coastal license. Let's step back and consider some key points in the calendar section. Of the minimum of 360 days you must show to get a license, 90 of those days must be within the last 3 years. This is referred to as recency. In our example, the mariner does not have the minimum 360 nor the 90 days of recency. In addition, you need to have 90 days offshore or your license will be restricted to inland waters. But this lucky mariner has a second vessel, and by combining the days on both of these forms, we can determine whether this mariner meets the minimum 360 overall days, 90 days of sea service in the last 3 years, and the 90 days overall for operations beyond the boundary line or in the Great Lakes. Be careful, however, when adding up days across multiple forms, that you don't end up with more than 30 days in a calendar month. The second page of the form first asks for your signature. While this is a good faith estimate of your sea service, you will notice the copy states that fraudulent information could be penalized by fines or imprisonment. If the vessel you are claiming sea days on was not your vessel, below your signature is a place for the owner or the appropriate person to fill in attesting to your sea service on this vessel. Note they are also subject to fines or imprisonment for false statements. If you were the owner of the vessel you are claiming sea service on, the Coast Guard asks that you prove ownership. Listed here are a number of ways you can prove ownership of a vessel. You may want to pause this video momentarily to review the list. This proof of ownership should be attached to the appropriate sea service form when you submit it to the Coast Guard. I hope you found helpful this review of the Coast Guard's Small Boat Sea Service Form CG-719S. This is Jack Feeney for Sea School, signing off.